Okay, Don here from Florida. We're back for part 2 of the Atlas Craftsman milling attachment from scrap. So let's get her hooked up, get her done, put her on the lathe and see what she'll do. Alright, well everybody was out fooling around. I went ahead and finished drilling that hole. So I got the hole all drilled out. She's ready to go. This is what we're going to use for a bolt to hold our slide in place. It'll go through just like that. So that'll sit on here. So let's get that in there and just check it real quick. So that should all sit on there just like that. This is why I wanted to do my drilling and testing here before I welded, because I wanted to make sure everything was going to line up properly. So there we go. I wrote top on the wrong side. There with an exclamation point. So that's why we test. Otherwise, if I had gone ahead and welded that, I would not be happy right now. So it looks like it's gonna line up just perfect, just like that. So another thing I did while everybody was fooling around was I beveled the edge right here. So when this goes in here and I do that weld, I have a bevel for it to go into. I'm gonna prep this surface just a little bit, and then I think I'll prep this surface as well right here. I'm going to grind that back so we get a beveled edge in there. So I'm going to go do that off camera real quick and then get set up for the welder, and then we'll bring it back and we'll clamp this all in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack in the corners here, get a nice weld bead in each one of these corners, take this off, and then tack it front and back. There we go. All right. A little tack in there. I'm going to turn it around. So we're seeing it this direction. Tell you what, that plasma is so controllable. It's just amazing. There we go. So again, all right, I finished up the welding. I ground out the excess weld and threw a little paint on here. So I think we're good to go with this portion of it. I also checked the grub screws to make sure that they turn freely, and add a little WD-40 to them to ensure that they would turn nicely. That one's a little tight, but it's good. That's probably from the heating and cooling process. So let's do a quick mount up here and check. So we're going to take this part here and we're going to install this into here, and then that, and we're going to make sure it's centered on here as best we can, and add our ring, and we're going to tighten that up. All right, that should hold that. Now the grub screw thing, the reason I put the grub screws in there is this. This casting, I'm sure, is probably not perfectly flat. So what I want to do, this is a thousandths, 1/1000 or 1.5 thousandths feeler gauge. You can see I can actually fit that feeler gauge in there, and it'll stop at certain points. So even though I pushed this down onto this block before I welded it to ensure it made contact, there's still plenty of areas that are not making contact in here, and this is why I wanted the grub screws, because I don't want any vibration at this point. I want this to be acting as one solid piece. So now what I can do is I can take these grub screws and I can sock them up against that base there, and that'll in effect make that one solid component piece down through there. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the vise on here, and you know what, I'm going to get a little bit of oil before I do that. I always keep a little bit of whey oil in a can here just for this sort of thing. So put a little bit of oil on there and put the vise on, and we've got our original pins for this one, so that pin will go that way because we want it to go into the V like this. See that? So we want it to go into that V. So we're going to put it in like this, drop it down. I'm just going to tap her into place here and put my locking screws in place. Bring that down till it about makes contact. There we go. And swing this over. Same thing here, V goes in this way. I'll tap that down. Same thing here. All right, and then we'll go ahead and mount it up on the lathe here. So let's go over there and mount that. My tools here. Add a little oil on here. Just like that. And then we'll set this up here, and just like that. Okay, let's put this one in. The bevel going down, so we get that in there. Tap it in, and in goes our screw. That seems to have grabbed it. And then the next one, again, the bevel goes down, tap it in, and in goes our screw. Just like that. Whoop, got it too tight. All I did was snug it. There we go. I'll just kind of square it up by eye to start. And now let's go ahead and set up. And so what we'll do is we'll go to our trusty 1, 2, 3 block here and lock this in. We'll use this to square it. It's right back up against the back face here and the bottom face. I did clean that out a little bit with some sandpaper earlier, so hopefully it's going to be nice and square for us. And another thing I did was I didn't have a lot of handle to get around with this in the way, so I made this extra little handle here to move this up and down, so we can bring this up fairly easily. And then we'll take our gauge here, and we're gonna check for squareness, and this is a tenths of thousandths gauge here. So let me see if I can get this in the camera view here. So I'm going to lock my carriage. I don't want it moving on me. And we'll run this back and forth. And as we can see right now, we are not square. So what we'll do is we'll knock that back a little bit. And you can see that's probably a little over 1,000. By eye, I'd say that's actually pretty good. So let me loosen this back up. I don't want it too loose. I just want to take a little bit of the there we go. So I need to bring it a little bit more here. Alright, so it's just tap her. Alright, that's 5/10. We're going to stop right there because this is just a demo. And at this point, we could make a mark right here. Let me get we can make a mark right here on the 0. There, and then we can take a chisel and ensure that we're on that mark. And that'll line us up on the 0 degree. So now we have a 0 degree mark right here. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to change the position of this. Let's just go ahead and move this back. And I'm going to drop it down like this. And we'll come up here with our gauge. And again, we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going this way. So looks like we're going down that way. So not too bad considering I did that by eye. So we're going to zero that right now and come back. It looks like it's rising up for 6/1000. So we're going to drop that back a little bit. Let me get my wrench. Just loosening that seemed to do it. Whoa! Very touchy, very touchy. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll loosen this side and give it a little tap. Alright, not too bad. We're at 2/1000 now. All right, usually I have all these little square blocks laying around from chop-offs. I can't find a single one, so we'll go ahead and take a little piece of this aluminum here and make a keyway in it. Now, it's probably not going to be the proper size key. I've got a 5/16 end mill in there, so that's not exactly what we put a keyway into, and that's not exactly the right size key either. So let's go ahead and move this up. And in. So, but we're going to center it by eye. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing this. That looks pretty centered right there. So then at this point we could just simply back it out, bring it down to where it's touching to zero it, and then lock the carriage. No, we don't want to lock the carriage yet. We want to back it out, and then we're going to bring it in the amount that we want to cut and lock the carriage. And I've got her set up. We're turning about 2,000 RPM on this just to see how that works, and then we should be able to mill a groove in there, just like that. That actually works pretty slick. I wish I could find a piece of steel about that size. All my stuff seems to be in full sizes right now. Let's say you don't want your key to come all the way to the end. You could just simply stop, say that was a shaft, like this, bring it back, and then move your carriage in a little bit more, and again, there's a little vibration going through here, but not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. And that would be the end of that right there. And not bad. So it actually cut a really nice keyway in there. So let's take that out. There we go. See, just like that. Not bad, hey? Okay, let's clean that out. And other things we could do with this, we could cut a key in it. Of course, we could square the end. There's a lot of things we could do with this. So let's say we wanted to cut an angle off the end of that. We'll put this back in here. And, you know, we could use angle blocks or protractors or whatever. We're just gonna do this by eye, and we'll do 2 angles. Why not? We're going to move this slightly. We'll say we're going to move this, we'll go this way, like that, and we'll say that's 45. We'll just say it's 45. We don't know that. We will move it this way as well. So turn it out this way. I need to loosen that a little bit more. And again, and then we would drop it down below our bit and bring it in. And that's going to be cutting a little bit close, but I guess I could take a little bit more angle out of that. Or I could just stick it out further in the vise, but there we go. Just trying to give a demonstration here. Bring it in. We want to come down below because we don't want to do climbing cuts. That's for sure. Not on this. I don't even like doing them on my regular mill. So, and then we lock our carriage. And let's see what happens. Look at that. There, and let's say we had to do that for whatever reason. And on round, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. On square, it probably would make more sense. Let's get that out of there. So see, we can take a nice cut off there. It's not perfect, but this aluminum's kind of crappy too. So that would have been like a normal cut, I guess, even though I'd done it at 2 angles. But that's simply because this is round and not square. But it's just to give you an idea what you can do with one of these things. I guess imagination is really just the limit. Square that back up semi-close. Okay, so basically we've got our milling tool for our Atlas lathe, and what did we build it out of? Well, I had a piece of 3-inch drop here. I had some 1-inch square, which was also a drop piece that a friend gave me. This is the compound slide off the Atlas, and this is just a cheap vise I picked up at the flea market. Apparently it was a Southbend, according to the old man. But it all came together. It worked out well. I don't actually need it. I've got a mill over there, but you never know. You might be in a situation where you do need it. Honestly, I had a very similar setup to this when I was in Germany. When I didn't have access to a milling machine, I would put it right on this lathe and do just what we're doing here. And it worked for what I needed at the time. Particularly putting keyways in shafts, it works really good for that. Okay, so where do we pick up our 5-axis? Well, right here. We've got in and out this way, back and forth this way. So we basically got an XY axis, but then we've also got a Z axis up and down this way. And I guess this depends on the way you're looking at the relationship to the end mill. So up and down this way, so in out this way, back and forth that way, up and down this way, angling it this way, but we can also angle it this way. So we've got 5 axes that we can rotate on. So that's our Atlas Craftsman milling attachment from scrap. So I guess that's about it for our milling vise made from scrap. I had a good time doing that. I didn't take it to all the extremes. I could have put degree marks here and here if I was going to actually use this on a regular basis, but I'm not. And the other thing I could have done is I could have checked it for squareness this way. It shows up pretty good on the machinist square, so I'm not too concerned about it right now, and it did cut pretty nice on that piece we just tested. So I guess that's about it. If there's any interest in the Atlas Craftsman stuff that you may like to see, go ahead and drop me a comment there down below, and I'll see what I can do about it. I hope you enjoyed this, and from Florida, Don out.